What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to show you how you can build a coffee UI using Flutter. So as you can see here, this is what the application will look like. It is a main screen. We have two different list views, one horizontal, one vertical, and you can click each individual coffee and go to a detail view, which again features a lot of various Flutter UI components. Before we begin, I want to mention that each section of this video corresponds to a unique branch on my GitHub. So for example, this first branch is named O1 starter files. You can go to my GitHub, select that branch as you just saw, and get all the code for that section. So let's go over the starter files. As you can see, I have a folder called images. Inside of here, I just have 6 images that I got from a coffee icon pack online, link in the description for that. Second, we have a folder called models, and inside of that holds a class coffee. Now this class simply defines a coffee object, and at the bottom you can see I declared a list of type coffee with 6 coffees in it. Lastly, in the pubspec.yaml file, I added a route to the assets so Flutter knows where to find the images, and I also added font awesome icons. We will be using that later on in this video. Now after you add that to the pubspec.yaml, be sure to run flutter pub get. So the first thing that we're going to do is code the top part of the home screen. So first off, remove everything from main.dart. And we're going to start by importing the material package from Flutter. After that, let's declare a function main with a return type void. And in here, we need to pass in run app and then the name of our class. So standard Flutter stuff. Again, this my app is just the name of our class, which we'll create right now. So this will extend a stateless widget. And we don't want to return a container. What we want to return is a material app. Now we can declare some properties on this. So we'll say title is equal to coffee shop. We'll say debug show checked mode banner is equal to false, and that is the banner in the top right that you'll see. And then we can declare some basic theme data. So we'll give it a primary swatch of blue, give it a visual density. There we go. And finally, let's set the home screen for now equal to a text widget, just so we can see what we have. There we go, text home, and now we'll refresh this, and it should display on the screen. Okay, there we go. Now let's change this text widget and set home equal to home screen, and this will be a class that we create. So let's go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to create a folder called home screen, and inside of here, create a file called home screen. And there's a reason I'm creating this inside of a folder, and that is because I want to create another folder called components. And this folder will hold all of the components for the home screen. Okay, so inside of homescreen.dart, we can create a stateless widget that is named home screen. Again, don't forget to import the material package from Flutter. Now let's return a scaffold. And inside of here, we can declare our body, app bar, all of that stuff. So first, let's declare body is equal to text. and import this home screen back in main.dart so we can see some output on this screen. Okay, there we go. And as you can see, the screen is now white, and you see home in the upper left. So let's go ahead and add an app bar so we can see that being pushed down a bit. So we'll just say app bar is equal to the widget app bar, and inside of here, we're just going to change the background color. And this color right here is a hex code that I got ahead of time. Let's declare an elevation of 0. And let's add a profile person in the upper right. We won't be doing anything with this, but it will make the UI look a little better. So here we are using the Cupertino icons that Flutter gives us, and not Font Awesome, but we will be using Font Awesome eventually. So I'm just declaring some basic properties. There we go. And lastly, let's add an onPressed event. Okay, there we go. So now it's in the upper right, and let's add some padding so we get it a bit further from the right of that screen. So we'll say 0, 0, 12.0, and 0. Okay, just like that. Next, let's start on the body of this page. So let's remove text and say body, and this will be another class that we create. So let's make that inside our components folder. Inside of here, let's first import that component, and then back in the body.dart, we'll create a stateless widget called body. Grab our material.dart, and let's grab this color from the app bar because we want the body to be the same color. Okay, just like that. And inside of here, we'll say child. We'll give it some padding. And let's create another child, and this will be a column. And let's declare cross-axis alignment. We'll say start, put everything to the left. And then for the children, let's declare a text widget, and inside of here, we'll say it's a great day for coffee, just like we saw on the preview UI. Okay, just like that. Now we gotta add some styling to that to make it a little larger. So we'll use the text style widget, and we'll just pass in a font size of 25.0. Okay, and don't worry about the white on the right side of the screen, that will be fixed shortly. Okay, next up, let's say categories, and again, this will be another class that we create. So this will be that list view horizontal slider that you guys saw. So we're going to create that class inside of this body.dart file. So simply go to the bottom, and this will be a stateful widget. And it's stateful because we need to control the state, and we know which category the user has tapped. So let's first declare a list of type string called categories, and here are the categories that we want. So for me, I'm just going to do hot coffees, cold coffees, hot teas, and a couple of others. Next, let's create a variable int with the selected index and set that equal to 0. So when the user first gets to this page, the selected category will be hot coffees. Next, let's return a size box with a height of 75 and give it a child of list view. And what we can do is use the .builder method to build this dynamically. Give it an item count of categories.length, which is 6, just like that. Now it's dynamic. Give it a scroll direction of axis.horizontal. And for the item builder, we need to pass in the context and index. And what we're going to do is say build category, and this will be a method that will pass in the index and build it. So we need to create that build category. We'll do that down below. Make sure you're still inside of this class though. So we'll say widget build category, pass in the index, and inside of the body here, you can simply return a gesture detector because we need to know when the user taps on the category. We'll declare an on-tap event, and when the user taps, we want to set the state. So what we can do is say selected index is equal to the index. So whatever the user taps on, we want to make that the selected index. And then we can go ahead and declare the child. First off, let's give it some padding. We'll do from top, right, bottom, or sorry, from left, top, right, bottom, just like that. And then we'll give a child of column, and this will have all of the categories inside of it. Cross-axis alignment of start, keep it to the left again. We'll declare a container, some more padding, and then we'll give the child to be a text widget of categories index, and this will display every single category just like that. And it's horizontal because that's what we declared. So that has all the categories in a list view builder displayed horizontally. And it is detecting the taps, but we need to change the look of the widget so we can convey that to the user. So first, let's give some decoration, and we'll give this box decoration which a background color of white, as you see. And what we can do is we can say selected index equals to index. If it is equal to index, make it white. If it's not, make it transparent. Now, as you can see, when you tap on the index, we set the state, and the background color changes with this dynamic widget coloring. Let's make it a little nicer, giving it a border radius, round the corners off a bit. Okay, just like that. Then we want to do the same formatting color to the text. So let's give it a style, and we'll do the same thing that we did for the background box decoration. First, let's make it bold. Now we can give it the size. And here for the color, again, like I said, the same thing. So if it's selected, let's make it black. If it's not, let's make it a slightly lighter black. Just like that. Okay, and that is working perfectly. Okay, so for this bottom section, we're going to create a widget expanded, and the child will be another list view, and we're going to use that .builder method again to do a very similar thing. So we'll give it an item count, and this will be coffee list.length. We'll give it a scroll direction of axis.vertical. And just like we did before, for the item builder, we'll pass in the context and index. And what we're going to do is we're going to map this to a coffee card widget. And we will create that in just a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to pass in the coffee index like that. So we have a reference to the actual coffee. Let's go ahead and create that coffee card.dart in our components folder. And just like we've been doing, we'll make a stateless widget, coffee card, import the material.dart. Let me copy that from here. And import the coffee card file. And there we go, no errors. So we're seeing we're getting an error for that coffee, just like that. So let's change that. Let's make a reference to our coffee object, just like that. Make sure it's final. And then we can import the model up top. There we go. And we're still getting an error there, and that is because we need to make a constructor. And we'll do that in just a second. So here's that coffee class that we're getting that data from, just as a reminder. Let's declare another final variable. This will be a function press, and that will be for the detail view when we need that, but we're going to declare that for now. And then here's the constructor, passing the key, the coffee, and the press. And we'll make a reference to the superclass, passing in that key. And there we go, so no errors. Now inside this container, let's make a child column. And we're going to wrap this in a gesture to texture. Again, for the detail view. And on tap, we're going to set it to press. So that's the function we have yet to create. We'll make a child of a row. And remember, this is for each individual coffee. So each individual coffee will get its own row. Give it some padding. And we'll give it a child of an image. And this image will be the coffee image. So we can grab that image with the coffee.image. And there we go. We see the image for each coffee. Let's change the size so it's a little smaller and it looks a little better. There we go. Now we have all of the coffees mapped to their coffee card. And we're going to do the same thing for the name and the price. So let's first refactor this a bit. Wrap it in a column. There we go. So that's the left column. And then we're going to do another column, which would be the right column. First, let's put a size box so we can get a little bit of padding between the columns. Give it a width of 30. And here's that second column. So remember, in Flutter, everything is built in rows and columns. So here we have a row with 2 columns. And then a size box, so 3 if you count that. And there we go. We'll give the coffee.name for the text widget. Let's change the formatting here. We'll say cross-axis alignment is start. Center everything to, format everything to the left. And then let's style this a bit. Let's just give it a font size of 18.0, a little larger. And then let's put the price in another text widget. And that will be right underneath the name. There we go. Okay, so everything looks good. And remember, everything is in a list view, so if you had more than 6 coffees, for instance, maybe you had 20, you'd be able to scroll and see all of them. So lastly, let's put a divider to make it a little nicer. Separate each individual coffee. Let's make it a black color for now. But as you can see, we have a divider on the top, above the top coffee as well. We don't want that. So let's use that conditional styling that we did before. So we'll say if coffee.id is not equal to 0, so if it's not the first one, make it black. If it is equal to 0, make it transparent. And that will remove the line from above the first coffee. Alright guys, so let's start on the detail view. So first we need to go back into body.dart and add a press event to each coffee item. And on this press, it will bring you to the detail view. So what we can do, we can say navigator.push, and this will allow us to pass in some arguments. So just like this, we're going to set the material page builder, and we're going to say builder is equal to context, and we're going to send that to the detail screen. That is a class we have yet to build. And then just like we did before, we can pass in what coffee we are on by setting it equal to a variable. So let's create a detail screen folder, just like home screen. Inside of here, we'll have a folder components and the main detail screen.dart. So we'll start on this detail screen.dart. Let's create a stateless widget, detail screen. We can grab the material.dart, paste that up top. Okay, there we go. Now we'll come back here and import that screen. And then down here, we need to fix that coffee. So we can make a reference or a variable to that coffee, final coffee, coffee. Then we're going to say const detail screen. This will be the constructor. Pass in the key, pass in the coffee, just like that. And again, make a reference to the super or the parent class, passing in that key. And we're getting an error on that coffee, so let's import that model. Okay, there we go. Now we have no errors. Perfect. So let's return a scaffold widget because this is a new screen. We'll make the background color the color of that coffee. So we have a BG color variable on the coffee, so we can set it to that. We'll set the app bar background color to that color as well. Okay, just like we did on the home page. Set elevation to 0. And then we'll set the body to text coffee.name for now, just so we can see this is working. There we go. As you click, we see a different background color and the different name. Okay, so let's add a loading icon. So this will just be an icon in the upper left. So we'll make it a back arrow, and on press, we'll just say navigator.pop context. And this will just bring us back to the last page. Okay, there we go. Now we see the arrow. And we're going to make it white. And now we can click it and go back. Okay, next up, let's fix this body. So we're going to make a body class, passing in the coffee. But before we make that class, let's declare a floating action button. And this button will float on the bottom right, and it will be the add to cart button. So we'll say floating action button extended, and on pressed, all we want to do for now is, again, just navigator.pop, so go back to the last page. But if you were building an actual application, you'd obviously save this to some sort of database or something. And then just for our sake, we'll print added that coffee to cart so we can see that in the terminal. Okay, let's make the label. This will be the text. And we'll just say added to cart. And we can grab the actual, and we can put the price of the coffee as well, because we have access to the coffee. Okay, just like that. And then we'll make an icon. This is where we're using the font awesome icons. We'll just put a nice coffee cup. and we'll make the background color the same as the coffee background color. And the reason this is not showing up is because we have an error for the body, so let's change that to text, and there we go. Now we can see it. Perfect. So now let's work on this body. Let's create a folder, components. And inside of here, let's make a file called body.dart. Again, just like we did with the home screen. Let's go ahead and grab the material.dart import statement and create a stateless widget called body. Let's import that in the detail screen.dart file. And that should remove the error on the body widget, but it will give us an error on the coffee, like we've seen multiple times already. So let's fix that. Say final coffee. Let's make the constructor. Say const body, pass in the key, pass in the coffee, and again make our reference to the superclass. So before we start with the return statement, let's declare a variable size of type size. And by doing this, we can use media queries to get a reference to the size of the screen, both the width and the height. And we'll use that a bit later. So now let's change this to a single child scroll view, and we'll declare a child element column. And for the children, the first one we want is a sized box. We'll give that a height of size.height. Remember, that's the height of the screen. And then a child of stack. And I'm using stack so we can place elements on top of each other. So let's give that a children of container. And then we'll say main and pass in a reference to an individual coffee. But before we create that, let's work inside this container. So we'll say margin edge insets.only. We'll say top is size.height times 0.3. And we'll give it a padding of edge insets.only top size.height times 0.2, and then from the left 20.0, from the right 20.0. Okay, that's good. Now let's comment that line out so we can see this. And let's give it a decoration. Give that a box decoration and a color of white. Now we should be able to see that. There we go. So the next thing I want to do is round off the top left and right corners of that. So we can do that by using border radius. I'll say border radius.only, and this will allow me to set the top left to radius.circular 20.0 and the top right to 20.0. And as you can see, that makes a nice little curve there. So let's go ahead and uncomment this line now and go ahead and make that file. So inside of our components folder, let's create a file main.dart. Inside of here, like we've been doing, let's make a stateless widget. There we go. And we'll call that inside of the body.dart file. There we go. Now we just have to fix that coffee error. So let's go ahead and declare that variable and create a constructor. So let's say const main. We'll pass in our key, We'll say at required this dot coffee. And then we will make a reference to our super class and pass in the key. Let's import that coffee model. And then next, let's make our coffee variable. So let's change container to padding. And inside of here, let's say padding is equal to const edge insets.symmetric. We can say horizontal 15.0. Then we'll give it a child of a column widget. Let's say cross-axis alignment is cross-axis alignment.start. So move everything to the left. First child will be a text widget, which is hot. Remember, all of these coffees for this example are hot coffees, so this will be a hard-coded string. We'll give it a text style of colors.white, and we'll bump the font size up a little bit to 16.0. Next up, let's make another text widget, and this will be the name of the coffee. Okay, just like that. Now let's add some styling. And we're going to style this one a little differently. We're going to say theme.of, passing the context. We're going to use the text theme.headline4.copy width. And then inside of here, we can give it a color of white and make it a little larger, and make it bold and a bit larger. Okay, just like that. So that's looking good. Next, let's make a size box. We'll give it a height of 20. And then below that, we will give it a row. And this is the text in the bottom left. We'll make this rich text, so we can use text span. Inside of here, our first text span will be the text of price. And then the next text span will be the price of the coffee. So we can get that using coffee.price. Just like that. Next, let's give this some styling. We're going to use the same or similar styling as above, so let me copy and paste that. Now I'm going to remove that font size. Okay, and now down here, we'll say expanded. This will be our image, but before we put the image in, let's add some padding. We'll say const edge insets.all 30.0, and then we'll give it a child of hero. Give the tag the coffee ID, and we'll pass in the image as an asset image and access it via coffee.image. There we go. So that works. Let's add a box fit, just like that. We'll say boxfit.fill. Now everything is looking pretty good, and this should work for each individual coffee. Now we're going to finish this up and finish the bottom section. So first is the description. So let's make a column. And right here is where you can see the stack coming into play. The image is able to float above the white space. So we'll give cross-axis alignment.stretch, stretch it across the entire screen, and give it a text widget of coffee.description. Give it a size box, and then below here, we will start on the size picker, and this will be the small, medium, or large. Those three buttons. So let's create a file in our components. Copy material.dart and create a stateful widget. We'll name this size picker. Let's go back into body.dart and import that. Okay, there we go. Now back in size picker, let's create a text and say size. So we can see this working. There we go, we see it coming through. So let's first create a list of type string called sizes. That way we can generate sizes dynamically and easily change or remove or add sizes. So we'll say small, medium, or large. Then we'll make the selected index 1. So when the user first goes onto the detail page, medium will be selected. Now let's go ahead and change this text. First, let's add a height of 90, and now we'll change this to a grid view. Just like list view, we're going to use the .builder method, and it takes in a couple of parameters. The scroll direction to vertical, the item count will be sizes.length, so the length of that list. The grid delegate will be a Flutter widget, silver grid delegate with a fixed cross-axis count. That way we can set the cross-axis count to the length of the sizes list, so in this case 3. And then for the item builder, as we've seen multiple times already, pass in the context and the index, and we'll map that to a build size widget passing in the index. Let's declare this widget down below. So we'll return a gesture detector, and we'll make an on-tap function that will basically just set the state and set the current index as the selected index. Just like that. Now all we have to do is add styling to this. So display the list and display what we want the current or active index to look like and the non-selected or non-active indexes to look like. Let's first add some padding. We'll give it edge instance.all 15.0. And we'll say the child of that is a column. We'll say cross-axis alignment dot center. So we'll center everything. And then inside of here, we'll say container widget. We'll use the same padding. Let's change this padding from left, top, right, bottom. Say 0, 20, 15, 0. And then down below here, we'll say the width of the container is 90.0. And the decoration will be box decoration. Make this color a colors.black, just like that. So that's what it will look like. Let's actually change that color though. So we'll change that to a conditional formatting. So we'll say if it is the selected item, make it a nice gray, otherwise make it transparent. And because we're using transparent, we'll need to add a border to this box decoration. So we'll say border radius. That will be border radius.all. We'll say radius.circular. Give it 10.0. And then what we can do is we can say border. That'll be equal to border. And then as you see, we have bottom, left, right, and top. So we'll set all these to the same thing. First, let's set it to border side, give it a width of 1.0 and a color of that same gray. Copy and paste that. And then what we can do is we can simply copy that, paste it 3 more times, and change it to bottom, left, and right. Just like that. And the last thing that we need to do is have the actual sizes displayed. So we'll wrap that in a text widget and say sizes.index. So now we can see each of those sizes are mapped. Now you see they're a bit to the left, so let's text align that to center. We can do that just like that. Okay, so that's looking really good. Last thing, let's add a style. We'll say text style, and we'll just give the font size to be 15.0. And we'll give it a color. This will be conditional formatting as well, so we'll say if it's selected, make it black, and if it's not, maybe make it a bit lighter. So a bit lighter black color, just like that. Okay, there we go. So now it's working. Okay, so back in our body.dart, let's change that height to 10.0, make it a little less. And then up top here for this top padding, let's change that to 0.12 instead of 0.20. There we go, that's looking a lot nicer. Now let's go back down below here, below size picker, and say counter. And this counter will be the number of items, or number of that coffee. So let's make a file, counter.dart. We'll import the Flutter material package, and then this will be a stateful widget, just like we've been doing. Name it counter. We'll say int num of items equals 1. So that will be the default. And then we'll return a row, and the children will simply be a build widget function. So we'll pass in the icon to be icon.remove and a press function. And on this press, what we want to do is we want to increment or decrease the number of items. So this is the remove, so we want to subtract. So first we got to check if it's greater than 1. If it is, then we can subtract. If not, don't do anything because it can't go below 1. Let's copy that and let's build this down below. So we'll say size box, paste that in there. We'll say icon data icon function press, so it takes in both of those. As you see above, we pass those in, and we'll simply return a size box. The width will be 25.0, the height will be 25.0. So this will be, as you'll soon see, a circle. We'll say child outline button. We'll give it some padding. And we'll give it a shape of rounded rectangle border. Give it a border radius dot circular 13.0. That'll round off the edges. And let's add the onPressed event and set that equal to press. So that's the function we passed in. And then the child will be just an icon. Again, the icon that we passed in to that builder. We can set the size to 15.0. Okay, now everything looks good. So let's add some padding. There we go. And we'll say child is equal to a text widget. And all we want to do is display the number of items, so the current state. And then what we can do is we can use .padLeft to put an X next to it. Let's import that back in body.dart. And there we go. No errors, and we can see it on the screen. So right now you can't really do much with it because you can only subtract. So let's go ahead and add the addition button so you can add additional coffees. So this is going to be very similar. So let's copy that again. This icon will be the add icon. Let's add our press event. This will be the same thing as above. We're setting the state, but instead of subtracting, we are adding. So let's copy that whole thing, change that to addition, and instead of checking if it's less than 1, let's check if it's less than 9. So we only want the user to be able to go up to 9. Okay, and there we go. Looks like it works. So let's go above the counter and add a row widget. We'll copy that counter, place it in there, and we'll also put some text in there just to give the user an explanation of what this counter is for. We'll just say number of, pass in the coffee name, add a S at the end of it, and there we go. That's looking good. Let's add some formatting though above this row. We can say main axis alignment, and we'll make that space between, and that will put them as far to the left and right as possible. There we go. So that's good. So let's add a size box just to give a little bit of padding. So we'll give that a height of 20.0. And we'll do a text widget customization. So all this stuff below here will be the different ways you can customize your coffee. Make sure that text line center is inside that text widget in the right place. There we go. And we'll give that some styling. We'll say font size, make that 20.0. And let's copy and paste that size box and give some padding below it as well. So now what we're going to do is copy this row, because it's going to be very similar, except we just need, instead of a counter, a drop down. So let's go ahead and create that file inside of our components folder. Say dropdown.dart. Go into body. Let's import that. There we go. Let's copy material.dart and go into our dropdown.dart file, paste that in. This will be a stateful widget, just like that. So first let's make a string dropdown value, set it equal to 0. So this will be the default. And let's return a build dropdown. Pass in our context. Let's copy that and come down below here. We'll say dropdown button. So we have type string. There we go. Paste in our build context, and then inside of here we will return a dropdown button type string. And there you go. You see it kind of starts to form. The value will be the drop-down value. Right now it's 0. The icon we'll make this a down arrow, so icons dot arrow downward. Give it a color of gray for now, and we'll change that to conditional formatting in a bit. The icon size, we'll set it to 20.0. The elevation will be 16, sorry. And the style, let's just give it a color of gray as well. Now on changed, we need to do a couple things. So we'll grab the new value, store that as a string, and then we need to set the state and say the drop-down value is equal to the new value. And we can come down below here and specify our items. So the items will be a list of type string again. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then these are all quantities of stuff, so we're just going to say plus 25 cents if you get 2, plus 50 for 3, and 75 for 4. Then we're going to come down here, and we need to map that to a list. So we're going to say .map drop-down value, or sorry, drop-down menu item, type string, pass in the string value, and then inside of here, we can return the drop-down menu item, and the value will be the value that was passed in. And then child will just be the text widget value. And then at the end, we need to convert that to a list with the .toList method. And there we go, so it works. So let's go back up, and I said we're going to change the colors to conditional formatting. So if it is not changed, we want to keep it as gray, but if the user does change it, we want to make it black. So we'll say drop-down value is not equal to 0, so that means the user changed it. We want to change that to colors.black, and if it is equal to 0, the user has not changed it, so make it colors.black 54, a lighter black. And there we go. So that is working well. So we can copy that formatting and paste it for the other two areas. For the icon, just like that, and also for the line underneath. So we can add that value in there and specify the color of that. So we can drop down here, say underline. That will be a container with a height of 2.0. And that will allow us to say color is equal to what we've been doing, just like that. So now the text, the underline, and the icon all change. Okay, so that's all there is to the drop down. Now let's come back here. And let's fill in the text. So first we'll say number of sugar packs, just an arbitrary thing. There we go, that's looking good. With our space between row padding, let's copy that 3 times. And we'll change this to pumps of creamer and pumps of whipped cream. Just like that. And that's looking really good. Alright guys, so here's a look at the finished product. As you can see, we have the two list views, and you can navigate to a detail screen and make a bunch of different customizations. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future.